Good afternoon, everyone. The Department of Science and Technology, National Capital Region, welcomes everyone to our webinar on Information and Communications Technology, Knowledge and Innovation Talks for Young Startups. To our esteemed resource persons, DOST family, educators, students, isang makaagham na hapon. I am Juvin Bautista, Science Research Specialist 1 of DOST-NCR, Pasay, Makati, Manila, and Quezon City Clustered Area Science and Technology Center. This webinar is part of the celebration of 2020 National Science and Technology Week with the theme Agham at Teknolohiya, Sandigan ng Kalusugan, Kabuhayan, Kaayusan at Kinabukasan. In this afternoon, we are joined by co-founders, CEOs, and directors of various IT-based startups. Let us be inspired as we hear their stories of challenges and success on the ICT industry. This session is about to start. For your audio concerns related to Zoom meeting application, you may privately message my DOST NCR colleagues through the chat box, and DOST NCR personnel will gladly assist you. Also, for the information of everyone, this session is being recorded for documentation purposes. With no further ado, may we call on Miss Shannon Palomares for an opening prayer?
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us all bow our heads and put ourselves in the holiness of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Almighty God, we glorify and thank you for allowing us to conduct this activity today, and we are grateful for all the blessings that you have provided us, and your presence continuously reminds us of your faithfulness and guidance. With this, may we humbly ask you to shower our speakers today of your greatest inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge and expertise to their respective topics. May you bless our participants so that they may absorb the invaluable knowledge and experiences and put it into practice what they may learn today. We pray that you bless all of us so that we may be able to fulfill our task responsibly and that the objectives we have set may all be achieved. Your infinite blessing would mean the success of this activity through the enactment of this knowledge acquired through this activity. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
At this point, we would like to acknowledge the presence of our resource speakers, educators, and students from different universities and colleges in Metro Manila and from other provinces. And now, to welcome us all, let us hear a message from our DOST NCR Regional Director, Director Josebi Patalinhog III.
The Philippines is among the countries with significant improvement in terms of innovation rankings in the 2020 Global Innovation Index. Among the pillars where we excel is for the knowledge, technology, and creative outputs. We recognize that under these are ICT-based sub-pillars which are significant to our innovation ecosystem. Today, let us discuss how information and communication technology contribute to the country's growth and development. We recognize that contemporary issues call for ICT-based solutions that can address multidisciplines on health, education, or disaster, and enterprise development. Our call is for the Filipino ecosystem to capture technology-based solutions that were 100% Filipino-made and developed, some of which are the DWARM and Rapid Pass technologies, developed to manage and monitor the current pandemic crisis. We also encourage young innovators to venture into establishing technology-based startups, which DOST supports through the Philippine Innovation Startup Act. As young as you are, we believe that your innovative mindset can develop possible solutions to address the country's pressing needs through science and technology. We have invited speakers to inspire you to capture the benefits of ICT-based technologies, not just to improve innovation and competitiveness rankings, but also to improve the quality of life and contribute to the nation's growth and development. We hope for a productive discussions with all of you. Thank you for joining us and good morning.
Thank you very much, Director Jojo, for your message. In this 2-day event, we will hear messages from young and successful startups and incubation programs of universities, non government organizations, or private institutions. On our second session, we will also get to know the government's initiatives in supporting the growing ICT sector in our country. With no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. He is currently the executive director of the Asian Institute of Management Dado Banatao Incubator, the first business school founded, located, and funded technology business incubator for startups in the Philippines. Since its opening in March 2018, AIM DBI has incubated 43 startups under its programs, with majority of them receiving local and international awards, entering international accelerator programs, and getting investments and grants. A Filipino dream Imagineer, he's also the founder of the Dream Project PH, a hybrid nonprofit organization that helps build the nation by shaping and enabling collective Filipino dreams among underserved communities through more than 400 innovative projects and programs to date across 10 regions in the Philippines. A two-time TEDx speaker, he was selected by the US State Department as one of the global fellows for the prestigious 2017 International Visitors Leadership Program on Volunteerism, Civic Action. Please welcome Director Prim Paipon.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Just before I formally start, I would just like to ask everyone if first my line is clear, yes or no.
Yes po, sir.
Second, are you able to see a group of four startup founders on your screen?
Yes po.
Okay, so that's probably my cue to officially start my 10-minute presentation. Um, so in behalf of the Asian Institute of Management, Dato Banata Incubator, and our 43 technology startups under our program, maraming salamat po for having us to co-celebrate this year's momentous affair as far as science, technology, and innovation sectors are actually concerned. I'm Prim Paipon. I'm currently the Executive Director of AIMDBI. If you notice on our screen, that's practically how we introduce ourselves. The main thrust of the AMDBI is to be a platform where the next generation of innovation-driven entrepreneurs is actually put of, of utmost importance. So just a little introduction about ourselves. Our full name is very long. That's why we go by the name AIMDBI. Thanks to the generosity and fortified programs of the DOST, we were able to actually get a funding, a sizable amount of funding to launch AMDBI 2 years ago. That's why we call ourselves a hybrid DOST Technology Business Incubator Accelerator Program that targets innovation-driven entrepreneurs whose businesses have the potential impact to all sectors of society in Asia. This slide is actually very important because when we actually started, we initially thought of only prioritizing early stage or more advanced technology startups. Then we realized during the course of our application process that there are a lot of highly potential startup ideas which also need a platform like ours. So when we were opening our program, we thought of opening two programs, one for the early stage startups and the other one for the ideation or pre-early stage startups. That's why we call ourselves a hybrid incubator accelerator program. Practically, we envision the incubator to be a nation-building platform where technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship blend perfectly together to contribute through our startup innovations and milestones, total human economic development. I guess that's the reason why our goal is to always drive inclusive and long-term growth. And we do this one in terms of making sure that we're able to monitor the growth of our startups within the program and outside the program in terms of three things. How far they grow as a startup organization, how far has their revenues reached in terms of giving employment as well, to different stakeholders. And number three is how far are they able to actually achieve milestone in terms of being an economic enabler to the local economy of the Philippines. And this we do because at the end of the day, the incubator is positioned to be a platform that helps provide solutions to current and emerging world problems, hopefully create very inclusive jobs, and be able to distribute created wealth in a very dispersed manner. So when we're actually being asked by startup applicants or interested parties for that matter, may it be group of people or young professionals wanting to pursue innovation, technology, or entrepreneurship as a main course in life, we always tell them that pretty much our requirements is of three things. One is technology, the other one is innovation, the other one is entrepreneurship. When we started at AMDBI, we initially thought of positioning ourselves as an incubator for deep technology. Then when we were trying to do our market research, we actually found out that perhaps we were not yet ready to be exclusive for deep technology startups. So that's the reason why at AMDBI, when we try to define technology, we define it in the context and concept of a Filipino. Any process, tool, service, mechanism that expedites a process, disrupt a traditional business, we call it a technology. That's the reason why we have startups related to food technology, shoe, entrepreneurship technology, and even plant-based technologies. The reason for this one is if you wanted to be a contributor in terms of solving sectoral problems in the Philippines, we might as well make sure that our appreciation of technology is very diverse, but also very grounded and rooted in terms of solving problems. So we call this entire framework that you get to see on your screen as TIE. And this is our response in terms of creating not just another batch of startups every year, but really trying to contribute everyday great entrepreneurship, which we call our Think Edge. So we give a 12-month incubation program to highly qualified startups. We call that one a Think cohort for early stage startups and Think Open for pre-early or ideation stage startups. And we create this one into first 6 month and 12 and second 6 month program. And later on, you'll get to see how we were able to stretch the programs for the next 12 months. Basically, the program is called the Think AIM under AMDBI, and it's actually focused on 7 rigorous areas on how to progress a startup to become a legit tax-paying, investment-ready enterprise. So these are the 7 areas of startup development wherein we also engage a lot of innovation, business stakeholders, and key players to co-run the programs with us. So if you notice, this is how we create and divide our 12-month Think cycle. So every March, we actually run a boot camp. For this year, we launched this boot camp as a virtual boot camp in a way that we're able to actually engage with applicants and be able to help them process their application. That way, win or lose, they're able already to learn from the concepts and tools of AMDBI. Then the entire April, we actually dedicate it in terms of opening 30-day application for all interested technologies and innovators. We have 3 kinds of review process to get qualified into the program. We have 1 paper screening and 2 oral presentations, all lead to a selection of the final list of startups who will join us for the July-December mentorship program under the Think cohort. When they perform really well at the end of the 6-month period, we give them their second 6 month. So this is practically how we divide the incubation program. So this is practically what we give. This is what we publicize to people who are very interested to join us. We give 3 layers of mentorship from our incubation partners, from very select AIM professors and alumni, and also visiting mentors who range from different industries as corporate executives, as founders, or even think leaders in their respective industry. But more than that, I think one of the most beautiful things about being part of an incubator is that you get to be part of a physical space. A physical space which would give you dedicated incubation rooms, a space which would also give you flexible rooms in terms of creating meetings, running investment portfolio or partnership meetings with target people, or just shooting your products in a studio, or being able to assemble your parts into a specific assembly of a technology. All this requirement of a space, we have it inside our incubator. We're pretty small of an incubator, practically 640 square meter of an area, but we're able to optimize all the space. So majority of even the marketing collaterals, the photo shoots, the interview, the videos that our startups make use of to get viral and to get market, they're all shot inside AIMDBI. But the best part also is that we consider our startup founders as official members of the institute. The reason for that one is they're also enablers of academic programs, collaborators of AIM students. That's the reason why all our startup founders are also given the official AIM ID. They also function in terms of communications by using the official AIM email address, and they're also given special access to AIM facility. Probably you might want to ask, what happens now because everything is virtual? Well, we just move everything to virtual, but the same functions practically happen between AMDBI and our current Think Cohort and Think Open startups. So this is how it looks, just to give you a preview. We like to allow student participants or interested parties to see this one, because this visual pretty much excites people inside the incubator. Because it's one thing to get mentorship from people. It's also another thing to be part of a community where in every day of your life, when you go to a physical incubator, you get to interact with fellow startup founders, fellow technologies who share not only your passion and your competence, but also share your trials and failures as young startup founders. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you get to experience in a physical incubator like AIMDBI. So, but really, allow me to reveal our not so secret sauce anymore. The reason why we're able to produce to date in less than 3 years, 43 startups, as mentioned by our facilitator earlier, was the fact that at AMDBI, we were actually able to craft 7 development tracks. What are the 7 development tracks? Think of it this way as your mini MBA. So you have a curriculum that you do with these industry partners that are practically run for the next 5 to 10 weeks. So multiply that 1 to 7, you get 7 development tracks, on top of making sure that you run your respective startups operations every day. So this is how rigorous the life of our startup founders is. Focus practically on 1, branding, finance and business, startup management, technology, legal and corporate compliance. For this year, we added 2 more tracks. That would be data science from Esquilabs and people and culture from Invested. We're very happy with this visual just because Esquilabs and Invested are actually alumni startups of AMDBI. And we're actually very happy that they were able to gain investments, very, very good traction, and considered by many as 2 of the most awarded and successful startups here in the Philippines. And we're very happy that they took our invitation to be this year's 2 newest incubation partners of our startups under AIMDBI. To give you a snapshot, basically for the past almost 3 years since we started AMDBI last March 2018, we're very happy to engage everyone that we've actually incubated 43 startups represented by 127 founders, exclusive of their respective employees. So this 43 startup founders represented by 127 founders pretty much represent 61% of them as men founders and 39% as lady bosses, as we fondly call them as at AMDBI. When we started the incubator, the women founders statistics is only a single digit. But we're very, very happy that the first batch of startups that we had at AMDBI were also led by very competent, very intelligent, very hardworking women. And 2 of them you'll meet later after my presentation. So this is also statistics that we try to engage everyone with, because I think it's also high time that we do not only grow competent startup founders, but we also make sure that startup is also a conducive, safe, profitable platform for women who wish to be technology startup entrepreneurs. So all of this 43 startups generate a total of 463 jobs to date. And we're actually very happy that despite the financial strain of the pandemic, all of this job and employment opportunities were heavily maintained through hard work, dedication, and creativity of all our startup founders. So allow me to shortly pre-introduce two of your speakers after this presentation. Your first speaker is actually Lay Motilia. She is the female founder of AI for Gov. You would hear her very remarkable story as a person, a lover of the Philippines, and a founder of a very thriving technology startup for government services. Lay practically would give you her journey on how she led AI for Gov, which started at AMDBI as purely a diagram, a flow chart on paper, and how they evolved from an idea into one of the most promising AI-driven startups here in the Philippines. So during the pandemic, they were actually able to create the contra COVID bots using their AI algorithms for the DOH platform via Facebook and Viber. So that's actually Lay of AI for Gov. Your second speaker after this one is also another female founder, one of the first graduates of AMDBI under the Think Cohort program. Her name is Timmy De Jesus, co-founder and CEO of the most comprehensive human resource suite technology currently in the Philippines. You'll also be interested on how they were able to move around a technology which was very used into in-person dynamics and shifting things to virtual, and how they were able to survive the challenges of this pandemic. But true to the call of our of AMDBI to all the startup founders and how we position our incubator as a nation building platform, we're very, very happy that AI for Gov and Payruler are just two of our startups which committed to the challenge of creating innovations to help mitigate the effects of the pandemic. And one of the more concrete responses of the startup community is through the technology of Payruler, co-led by Tini, which we call the We Chase. It's able to help the government do contract tracing effectively and quickly. And very interesting to note, they're now able to actually integrate this We Chase technology in the services of Payruler. So without further ado, allow me to shift your attention to our first speaker, AI for Gov's Lay Motilia, and our second speaker, Timmy De Jesus of Payruler. Again, if you have inquiries, feel free to reach out to us via Twitter, Instagram, FB, or LinkedIn. Or better yet, try to research AMDBI Data Banat Incubator via your Google. Again, maraming salamat po, and congratulations to this very monumental effort of DOST-NCR.
All right. So thank you very much, Director Prim Paipon, Executive Director of AIM Dado Banatao Incubator. Again, if you have any questions related to our speakers, we encourage everyone to use our chat box. Moving on to our program, allow me to introduce our second speaker. She is a top graduate of community development at the University of the Philippines. She also studied social entrepreneurship at the University of Connecticut as a YSEALI academic fellow. Lay has 7 years of experience working in the public sector focused on social development and youth leadership. She spearheaded a regional youth program promoting 21st century skills empowered by the National Youth Council Singapore, and from these experiences combined entrepreneurship, innovative technologies, and community organizing as the co-founder of AI for Gov, a startup that helps local governments use AI to improve service delivery and transform citizen participation. Help me in welcoming Ms. Lay Montilla.
Hi everyone, let me just share my screen. Ayan. Oops, there we go. There we go. Ayan. So good afternoon to everyone here. And thank you, Sir Prim, for the introduction. AIMDBI has been such an important part of our journey. And in this presentation, I will frame it as a journey so that you can all relate to what it takes to build your own startup, and especially a startup with an agenda, at least in the government innovation sector. So again, my name is Lay, from AI for Gov. There. So we started actually as we won a hackathon of the UNDP in government innovation. So there was a category for government innovation back in 2018. And at that time, I was very fresh, fresh working with the Department of Social Welfare and Development. And when we saw the ad na there is a hack society activity with UNDP and at that time with Rappler, so we created an essay to submit our application, and thankfully we won that hackathon. And then after a few months, we were experimenting with the idea. We still have full-time jobs. And then we were being exposed by the UNDP in regional workshops in Asia Pacific, etc. But we were not so sure yet of the idea until AIMDBI came along. So we applied for AIM thinking that it was a impossible to get inside there because we were just an idea. But they took a chance on our idea, like what Sir Prim said, na it was just a framework, it was just a drawing at that time. And then they gave us a home. We were saved from the valley of death, and it was such an important thing to have courage, no? Kasi you may have the idea in mind, pero you don't have the courage yet kasi there were a lot of risk, wala kang pambayad sa opisina, 'di ba? So when they took a chance on us, that's when we started to grow, and that's when we started to take partnerships, with the government. So with the DILG, with a municipality in Cavite, like the municipal of Carmona, and then we just grew and evolved. We had traction from there. So we're such a young startup actually. We've only been existing for a year if you count the actual BIR form, so maybe 3 months. So we are that fresh. Pero despite that, the traction has been big for us, and that is because of the partners that we have. And so AI for Gov is a GovTech startup dedicated to improve public services and promote citizen participation. Yon. So the macro problem that we are trying to address is service delivery problem in the government. So we know from the last data na 22% only of LGUs pass the seal of good governance. And then if you look at our performance in a worldwide governance indicator scale from the World Bank, we are actually falling behind 4 out of 5 indicators. So definitely there is a problem to be solved. Pero like I said, that is the macro situation. And then in the horizon, if you look at the landscape, we will also see about the fourth industrial revolution coming. So to be honest, I was first exposed in AI, in advanced technologies when I was working in Singapore. So that was my first exposure to all of these. Kasi when you're in Singapore, like every corner, meron dyang, are you 21st century skills ready? Are you using AI, blockchain, etc.? And as a development professional, that was remarkable for me because I had to disrupt my own field. So I was trained specifically in the development field. And when you become exposed to things like this, you see it as a tool for change. And so I had to disrupt myself as well and combine all of these elements together. No? Those were the beginnings of the inspiration. And then we can see na if we wanted to bridge divides in society, the government is a top stakeholder that will bring, 'di ba, remarkable scale and impact. And how do we empower and enable government to do that the social contract on social development as well. So yan yung ito yung nagbo-brew na thoughts in our heads coming from those experiences. Pero habang you're exploring different experiences, you're being trained this way, you have tools, you're being exposed, kailangan there's a way for you to concretize it. No? So how do you crystallize all of these experiences in order to have that the engine to move forward with your startup idea? So then that's what we did. So our core why is, of course, we were public servants first and community organizers. So like I said, I worked in the DSWD, Central Office for Sustainable Livelihood Development. So we were working with the 4Ps, working with infrastructure projects, human development projects. So we were very much exposed to all of these. And then when I was fresh out of college, I was doing humanitarian work with different agencies in Haiyan. So we were one of the first to be there in Tacloban after 2 weeks lang after that response, and I was in many barangays doing the whole humanitarian process from emergency response to shelter to livelihood development to a lot of promoting programs. So that was a core foundation. And then after your 8 to 5 jobs, we never stop volunteering as youth leaders. So ito yung I was speaking as a early 20s. Kasi now na ako ay papunta na ako sa late 20s ngayon. So malapit na ako hindi maging youth, no. Pero why I'm saying this is because we all start na wala talaga tayong assets as youth, no. Minsan ang meron lang tayo ay idealism, wanting to change, 'di ba? Pero ang important doon, that's why I'm telling our story this way, very personal way. Kasi we all started from here. So I came from impoverished background as well. Di kami mayaman. Pero I had education, no? So nakaswerte tayo sa UP, so naka-expose sa ganyan. And then you have your journey. So yun yung journey na you always have to do your, reflection. Kasi if you don't reflect on your journey, you won't be able to concretize it to parang build your engine for the future, something like that, no? So kung ito yung mga foundations natin, kailangan din meron kang tools. So this is where the team comes in kapag you're trying to build your startup. So kailangan hindi lang puro puso, 'di ba? Kailangan meron ka ring tools. So that's why the team, AI for Gov team, is composed of engineers, scientists, innovators, communicators, entrepreneurs, and designers. So hindi lang siya an understanding of social development, pero really how do you use technology? How do you use data? Pero kailangan grounded yan, 100% sa mga tao. Kasi minsan, when you're only looking at it from the ICT perspective or data perspective, it's super macro or super technical. Diba? At the end of the day, like sabi ni Sir Prem, ang core agenda is, are we bridging divides in society? Are we able to enable food on the table? So yun yung mga questions na hindi nagpapatulog sa amin every time dito sa buong journey kahit na very young pa yung startup. Kasi kapag binuo natin tong storya na to, there are a lot of enablers out there. Katulad ng AIMDBI who took a chance on us. Katulad ng sobrang daming incubators that was supported by DOST. To give a chance. Yun yung mahalaga na magkaroon ng chance. Kasi kapag walang chance, 'di ba? Mas mahirap. So hindi ibig sabihin nun kailangan lagi may incubator, pero ang laking bagay nung mabigyan ka ng opportunity to take a little bit more courage dito sa ganitong journey. And to top it out, kapag malinaw na sa'yo kung ano yung depth mo at yung gusto mong gawin, kailangan meron kang agenda. Kasi yung agenda na yon, that would build the whole product line. Alam mo yun? Kasi kung alam mo yung gusto mong i-gawin in terms of transformation, your core, madaling mag-pivot, repivot, adapt, ng kung ano-anong products. Pero kailangan seryoso ka dun sa gusto mong gawin. So ang lesson dito, I will mas matagal yung slide na to for me kasi ito talaga yung puso ng if you want to start any startup, kailangan may hugot ka dun sa gusto mong kasi yung hugot na yon, marami yung layers, the emotional layer, the 'di ba, yung depth nun, yung understanding and yung exposure mo sa iba't ibang social realities apart from you. No? And this gives you an ethic na hindi ka lang transactional, na basta ma-deliver lang yung service, no? Kasi gusto mo maka-deliver ng transformation, hindi lang ng service na binabayaran. So that's the whole importance of having a core. So yun. So yun. And then the rest of the slides we will just run through it. Okay. So kung meron na tayong why, ano ngayon yung how? So how do we do this? So how we did it was meron kaming malinaw din na framework in mind, no? Kasi nga this is social development, so we have our own theory of change. So our theory of change is that if we look at this macro problem na hindi ito bagong problem, no? Problema natin to since civilization started. If we are able to build a healthy public sector value chain, then we are going to enable trust, 'di ba, in society with citizen participation, at kailangan lagi siyang merong merong dynamic na pagsunod din yung ating government, na yung ating government services. And as a startup, ito yung value chain gap na we are trying to address. So we wanted government to empower, 'di ba? To empower better. So that's the mode. And then we are using different kinds of tools, 'di ba? Technology, data, and the way you deliver it with co-ownership, with community organizing, 'di ba? Kailangan hindi mawawala yung mga prinsipyo na 'yon. And then you're able to intervene with an experience. So yun yung ibig sabihin namin when we say meaningful public service. So hindi lang siya marketing, no? So talagang seryoso yung theory of change na you want to bring in as a startup. So yun. So yun na. So, and then our what is the digital transformation. So kung meron kang strategy, yun yung how mo, then yung what mo is yun yung variety of services that you will try to offer. And of course, hindi lang yan isang service, but you're also experimenting. So it's a lot of exploration, a lot of experimentation, but what's important is that your agenda is clear and that you are willing to persist, 'di ba, across of these. So this was the sort of digital transformation framework that we had in mind. Pero you have to first start then on small things. You have to win little things first. And the way that we tried to win it, as a young startup, siguro mga 2 months into the journey, nagsusulat-sulat pa lang ng mga diagrams, is we had to test first kung ito bang dinedevelop natin. We had to do our market validation first. Ito bang dinedevelop natin? Ito bang theory natin na if we use, for example, bots as a data collection mechanism, as a citizen participation engagement mechanism, magre-react ba talaga sila? Alam mo yun, gusto ba talaga nila yun? What would they feel about it? So yun muna yung ginawa namin. We did our regression analysis. We collected surveys from our communities, and then marami kaming ginawa, no? So hindi ko na mapakita yung iba. Pero point doon is, we first had our market validation, and indeed, our working theory that we can transform spaces for civic participation looks like it's holding true. So yun yung first na insight that we had. And then we continued experimenting using our different bot systems that we've created. So we did this with the municipality of Carmona, and then we've expanded to the DILG 4A. We built Go Negosyo Center bots with DTI 4A. And then, in the end, we also did, pero later na lang, TAAL bots, emergency response bots. So, yung point nung application namin ng AI is really preference discovery analytics. So, merong blind spots among your citizenship, no, na hindi mo nakikita kaagad as a government, as a government body. So yun yung application ng AI na we are specifically trying to do. So parang imagine Netflix for public services. O ganun. Parang ganun. Yun yung easiest way to but the approach that we're doing is behavioral, highly behavioral. So whenever that we go there, we're not just offering a product, we are doing our ethnography first. So yun yung approach na when you use social science with the hard sciences. So ganun yung journey. So maraming experimentation. It wasn't, a one-off deal. Marami ding failures. Pero we just continue. So that's the point. And then you don't just continue with the product. You also have to be absolutely responsive to the changing times. So when Taal happened, within 3 days, nakita to ni Sir Prim, kaming dalawa ni Julius, we were in the incubator. We were drawing a lot, no? Tapos we were like, walking back and forth, designing. And then in a matter of 3 days, we have this and we were ready to deploy it in evacuation centers. So that was ganun kabilis. Pero 1 week to it, biglang COVID happened. So we had to pivot. So again, we thought about it on a Saturday. We deconstructed the algorithms na nandoon on a Sunday. And by Monday, we were with DOH. And by Tuesday, there was a MOA na in the DOH desk. Pero by Wednesday, doon na namin na-meet lahat ng mga iba pang collaborators that also changed our the way that we approached the technology. And Senti was there, our big brothers were there, Aya was there as well, Facebook, Viber, etc. And what's important there was you persist, no? You persist in the collaborations hanggang sa makabuo ng totoong solution for the response. And in the end, so we created not just chatbots, pero the whole of government bridging. No? Hindi lang siya information dissemination or information collection, pero again, if the agenda is to bridge divides, what are the solutions involved in bridging those divides? So that's always the question that you go back to. So yun, we never saw it na chatbot lang. No? Kailangan buo yung system. And that's what we did. At we persisted with DOH for 8 months. And now we're actually the ones responsible to connect contact tracing applications out there to the IATF ICT ecosystem. So naging ganun, nag-evolve ang chatbot into a whole architecture ng solutions. So yun. So anyway, moving faster, si Kira, meron na siya ngayon actually by November. Meron na siyang mga 700,000 subscribers, 19 million interactions, ibig sabihin people are engaging. At marami na ring LGUs, citizens from LGUs na using it. Ngayon, we have Quezon City, the whole Region 2, at 100% verification rate using the systems that we have developed, and tuloy-tuloy lang itong initiative na to. Okay, last 3 minutes. And so, GovTech in practice is yun. And dito tayo, no, the startup. So the technology incubation. And then transfer process, so scaling and sustainability. So, bilisan ko na nga lang. Yan. So maraming barriers and constraints and enabling mechanisms involved in this whole process. Pero yung mahalaga dito is kailangan talaga you beat your own character, no? Dito sa persistence na to. Kasi in the end, it pays off. Kasi the government is composed of people. At working for the government, myself inside the government, napakadaming beautiful people sa government na nandoon talaga for service. At that is the inspiring insight on working with government. So hindi nauubos 'yan. Kaya hindi perfect pero hindi nauubos yung mga partners natin. Pero of course, the bureaucracy, etc. Pero you have to really just navigate through it. Yun. So aside from this, we also did this for the UNDP using naman community organizing, social listening, and to end the presentation, the top 3 insights in GovTech is explore with patience. So a lot in the startup community, marami dyan yung parang you always have the itch kasi kapag binasa mo yung lean startup book, diba, parang ganun yun. Dapat sige, go, parang patience, parang ask permission later. Launch now, launch now. So ganun kasi yung parang ethos, no? Pero In the public innovation sector, it's not like that. Kasi you have to really, sinabi na rin to ni Barack Obama before, no? Sa Silicon Valley. Pero you really have to dance with the bureaucracy. You comply with all the requirements. Yung 100 page ba na kinumply namin sa DICT, sa NPC at sa DOH, sobrang dami. Pero umiyak kami. Pero we succeeded. No? So yun yung mga realities now you also have to take in if you really have that agenda for change. And in the end, persistent collaboration is super important. Kasi you build trust systems across and you filter. Sino dito sa mga collaborators na to yung talagang agenda nila is to transform as well. So you begin filtering that. And we're very proud na dito sa IATF ICT Response, we have found them. So the doctors from Ateneo, the people from ADB as well. So sobrang saya to collaborate with them in the architecture. And then in the end, gender and power dynamics then, you also have to be conscious about it. Yun. So, yun. To end it, AI for Gov, yung AI sa AI for Gov, okay, may timer ako, no? Yung AI sa AI for Gov is not artificial intelligence lang. Kasi like we said, may depth and may breadth dun sa understanding of GovTech. So it's really about appreciative inquiry, diba? Using the grassroots knowledge na sobrang mature on that field, providing citizens with accessible information as a start of the trust building process, building on AI tools, ML tools, in order to leverage the government systems, at mas importante is the actionable insights that we develop for participatory governance. So yun. So that ends the talk. If you want to start your GovTech or your startup, again, key lesson is build on your why, do your skills building, start with your why, build your skills, find your team, at make sure that you have an agenda for change. Kasi that would make it sustainable and yung determination mo hindi mauubos kapag you have that core. Psychotherapy din yun actually. Pero yun. So thank you very much UST for the opportunity to share our journey in this event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lay, for that informative presentation. Now, let us hear from our third speaker from an ICT startup incubating and now a successful company, the Payruler. Ms. Timmy De Jesus leads the operations for Payruler, an end-to-end human resource management system for Philippine businesses. As systems analyst by skill, Timmy led technology teams in the Philippines for 7 years prior to being the country manager for JFDI Asia, Asia's first and longest running startup accelerator for 2 years. She devotes her spare time to being a worker bee in her parents' bee farm and taking care of their dog Margot. To talk about creating a human resource suite technology startup, let's hear now from Ms. Timmy De Jesus.
Hello. Hi. Let me just share my screen. Let me just figure this out. Can you? Okay. All right. Is my screen good? Like, can we see my presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Sige. So hello, I am Timmy and I run the operations of an HR technology startup called Payruler that hails from Cebu City. Maayong adlaw to everyone. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we do and some insights from our experience as a startup. So just as a background, for everyone, human resources or HR is the department within a company that is responsible for all things related to an employee. So this includes recruiting, hiring, training, promoting, and paying the employees, both for full-time and part-time. And this includes internships. So if ever you guys apply or do an internship in a company, then you're most probably gonna come across an HR person. But according to a study done by the Stanford School of Business, it's really people and products that are the key differentiator in a company's future success. But the steward of this all too important asset within the company, in any company, is the human resource department. According, however, to that same study, the majority of an HR practitioner's work is very administrative. So this means a lot of paper, a lot of filing, a lot of encoding. And on top of that, HRs and businesses have to deal with the inaccuracies and the inefficiencies of manual and distributed systems just to get the job done. So our solution to that is Payruler. And Payruler is a comprehensive and customizable human resource management system that integrates the management of an employee's journey from hiring to retiring. It automates the manual reports generation for internal and government reporting, and it streamlines HR admin work by allowing employees to do stuff for themselves. So Payruler is composed of 6 major modules to address the most tedious and repetitive aspects of the HR processes. So it starts at the very beginning, which is the employee's journey with the employer, which is upon hiring. So the hire module really does save a lot of time for HRs because this means that there's no more re-encoding from paper forms and from emails. And all is done for HR by the applicants themselves. So shortlisting and screening is really made very easy for HR, having all the information available all at one glance. And drilling down and really filtering for reports is also very streamlined. And it helps recruitment really keep track of the progress for filling out the positions in the company. And so once the applicant is then hired, selected and then hired, with a few clicks of the button, his or her record is then transformed to an employee record, which is then managed through our next module, which is called Identify. So Identify is like the digital version of an employee's file. So usually these are very big folders, pero we have digitized that thus far. And it really contains all of the information about an employee. So everything from an employee's personal information, government, ID numbers, to very vital information of the employee in their journey within the company. So, yung mga trainings, yung mga commendations, yung mga competencies, etc. So we do store that within Payruler. And a sub-module that was very useful within Identify during the past few months was really the asset tracking module, because we ended up sending everyone in the exodus towards home, and this includes students as well. So we found ourselves having to send people home with the equipment so that they could continue their work, right, in the work from home. And so Identify actually helps HR keep tabs on who has which device, and until it's returned into the main inventory when they do come back. So the next module is called Track. So Track is really the module within Payruler that consolidates all of the employees' clock-ins and clock-outs and automatically tallies these. So those logs are then overlaid with the working times that have been set up in the system. And it automatically computes kung ano yung excess or ano yung sobra for the employee within a day. And then it then overlays that again with all of the approved applications for overtime and undertime and mga absences, because that correlates to the pay. So Track maintains like a lot of stuff around holidays, policies about attendance, and really the different configurations that are needed, like night differential for people that work at night, because when you work at night, you're supposed to be paid a premium. So it can actually accommodate as many shifts, as many working shifts as a company requires, which really depends on the business need. Like in the case of one of our clients, so Sky Logistics, but now Macro Asia or Mascorp, is the ground crew counterpart of the Philippine Airlines. And so they used to really spend like 1,000 hours on payroll. Just really preparing the timesheets and computing the payroll every month. But with Payruler, that has since been cut in half, and the system practically paid for itself in savings. And now using that data from track, our fourth module, compute, generates the payroll data, or the breakdown for a company based on the schedule, right? So sometimes you may know there's the 15th, the 30th, the 5th, and the 20th. So it really depends on what the company wants. And based on the setup, it also automatically deducts, the statutory benefits of an employee, which you will find out soon enough. So this is, your PhilHealth, your Pag-ibig, your SSS, and your tax. And it also automatically, depending on the bank that the company works with, it automatically creates the text file that then they just send to the bank, and then the disbursement of the payroll is then massively done through the bank. So, and we work with most, if not all, of the banks. So our fifth module is Analyze, and it actually contains, in the canned version, the very standard version, around 70 standard reports for really drilling down and helping HR come up with the data to help the company steer its workforce. And this module is also a very favorite module of HRs, especially now, because right now, and you will also find this out later on, it's like you will be processing your 13th month and also doing the taxation. And usually companies actually do this very manually, just because it's a lot of tallying. And within Payroller, we try to solve that headache, and it's automatically generated. So what should be the holidays and the start of the year, we've tried to make that a little bit less painful for HR. And the reality is, our reality is so different right now, and the coronavirus has really drastically reshaped the economy, the labor force, and even your lives as you're in school, right? And since it's rapid spread around the globe, we've really expanded and experienced big changes in how we work, how we study, where we study, and the technologies that are needed for us to stay connected. So these massive shifts are actually escalating the importance of HR within the company, because workers are now looking to them to see, how do I navigate this new normal? And we believe that this is really HR's time to shine, and it's time for them to really step up. It's a tremendous opportunity and responsibility to provide workers with the skills and the capabilities that they need to be successful in this new future that we have. So this is where Empower, our sixth module, has really helped HR take on the added challenge of the pandemic. So, with the employee self-service portal, which is where employees log in to do stuff for themselves, employees have access to filing, applications, and of course, the quintessential requirement of logging in and logging out from work, because everyone is work from home. And this has all been uninterrupted. So Empower really has helped provide stability for HR and the entire company by allowing business to operate sort of as usual. And also within Payruler, companies are able to collect, the required daily health monitoring checklist. So this is very similar to, the forms that you fill up when you have to enter establishments nowadays. And so this is especially useful because right now, some companies, some people you may know are already, returning back to the workplace. And this is really needed in compliance with the government. So we do have, we've already incorporated this just to address, the ever-changing needs that we have. So a little bit more about who is using this technology we built. So we do have clients in 15 out of the 17 industries recognized by the DTI, which effectively means we have process automation in 88 experience in 88% of the industries. We currently, thankfully, have over 100 clients spread across the Philippines with companies as small as 8 and companies as big as 20,000. And we process tons and tons of data and information in Payruler because of all the automation we enable. And, the traditional belief is that, when data is processed and it's already done with its primary use, it's no longer valuable. But, the reality is data is really right now a raw material of business and a vital economic input. And now that's why you see the rise of people really crunching numbers and working with data. So this data actually does reside within Payruler. So, we are really expanding Payruller's Analyze to provide predictive analytics with the help of data science and AI. And so this is so that HR can actually make better number-driven decisions versus just guesses and hunches. And we have decided to start at the bookends of an employee's journey within a company. And so why this, diba? Because the fact is within a company, when the wrong fit is brought in upon hiring, or if there's a lot of employees resigning, this really does have a very bad effect on one, the company's financial budgets, to the morale of the people, like just the happiness of the team, and three, really just the productivity. And so we've taken strides into creating analytics for recruitment, where we have an algorithm that assesses the personality of an applicant based on the video interview that we actually splice and then we analyze with a 90% accuracy. So they're put into a certain personality type, which is related to the role that they're applying for. And then for retention, we've created an algorithm that can predict whether an employee will leave within the next 6 months with a 94% accuracy. Why I mentioned this is because we have actually made significant progress on this only and also because of the funding of the Technicum program, which is under the OST. And of course, with the support and help of the AIM community, particularly where we are housed right now, the Dado Banatao Incubator, and also the Aboite School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. And I know you guys are on the tech track and still well on your way to really discovering how you can make a difference in the world with technology. And so my primary advice to you is really to get involved as early as now. And I think you're already making the right step right now. You're actually tuning into this program. And I'm just really so grateful that the community, really offers a lot of events already that fosters the awareness on building technology to make an impact, to make a profit, or ideally and better to make both an impact and profit. So I'm very, very grateful to DOST to DOST-NCR for really organizing this afternoon's program, and it really emphasizes to you that this path is worth looking at. Particularly for your age group, I would just and I'm not being paid to do this, but there's this one to plug this, but there was this one event I actually got invited to speak in earlier this year, also through the incubator, and it's the Smart Sweep Innovation and Excellence Award. So it's essentially a contest. Like, you have an idea, and then you go through the rigors of a contest. You get first prize, second prize, third prize, and my general take from this is what it was so impressive, because these are very, very young people your age, really dreaming up and building things like unmanned aerial vehicles and an aid for prelingual deafness, and how to a state of the art way of how to tell if a coconut is actually already ripe. And so I really like this program very much, because not just because it's rigorous, but number one, actually some of our interns actually joined this program, some of our our OJTs interns, and they actually won in the previous one, the 15th one. But really, more than that, I salute everyone that joins this program, because all those who joined are really, they took the time to go through this bootcamp outside of the school responsibilities, and they really worked hard on their product. And this isn't really just for the money, right? It's really more for the experience of really seeing how far you can take things. And if there are opportunities like this, programs like this that you do get a hearing of, please do take them. And I wish there were more when I was actually your age. And so always be on the lookout for these things, for problems. Always be on the lookout for problems to solve via technology, since this really is our craft. So I'll relate to that a little bit. Actually, and Prim mentioned this earlier, much like Sila Lay, back in March, some of our co-founders and team members, we actually banded together with other members of the tech community here in Cebu because we wanted to do something for the community that would help, in the pandemic. And so a couple of us created WeTrace, and it's a contact tracing app and one of the first ones that was built in the Philippines. And we're super grateful actually to the government of the Cebu province, so province of Cebu, that has really adopted and really endorsed this technology to be an aid to curb the spread of the virus in the Cebu province. Because as you guys know, at some point, Cebu City really became like the hotspot, right? And so as of right now, WeChaze, sorry, has over 200,000 users, and this is just proof that with the support of the government, this technology actually worked. And so because they were also happy with that, the work pass we had to create within a week, something called a work pass system, which is interesting because the Cebu government wanted to kind of control how people were moving around so that we could easily trace like if there was a spread or anything. So they would then file for their work travel pass online and generate a QR code, which was then presented at the borders, and then they would be let in if it was a valid one. So we had to create that for in coordination with the Cebu government. And also right now, this also further evolved actually into something like a disbursed online voucher system, because right now the Cebu province actually allotted like a 100 million peso grant for Cebuanos, um, and we would disperse that through vouchers, which is also enabled by our team. So essentially, they give them to people. They file online, and they make they list what they want for their grant, and then they're given a voucher that they can use at SM or a hardware store to really buy either raw materials or hardware that they need to jumpstart and restart their business. So this kind of seems if you may think parang medyo tangent na siya to what payroller is doing kasi we're very focused in HR, but we're actually incorporating the contact tracing and all of our learnings into payroller eventually. And so we're actually creating a version that will apply into enterprises. So I guess my key talaga is keep your eyes peeled, like really be on the lookout for ways to solve problems through technology. And this circles back to my first encouragement because I mentioned chicken and egg. You have to be in a community that will help champion your technology. And I again in closing, I love that the UST really supports these initiatives. Actually, just also along with National Science and Technology Week, Philippine Startup Week is happening. So if you want to learn more about the successes, the highs, the lows, and the challenges of entrepreneurship in tech startups, please do sign up for this. I think it's a free event. And so we're very, very thankful to be backed by these prestigious organizations that have contributed significant to our growth. We're housed actually in UP Cebu here in Cebu, and we wouldn't be anywhere where we are at right now, and we have a lot of room to grow. But without these organizations, wala talaga kami. And so we are a team actually of 30 spread across Metro Manila and Cebu. And with that, I thank you very much for the privilege of your time, and thanks for taking the time to listen to our story. So daghang salamat.
Thank you very much, Miss Timmy, for an interesting presentation of your startup journey. Last but not the least, our next speaker is Senti AI's co-founder and head of research. She's also an associate dean and an assistant professor at De La Salle University, where she received multiple awards as an outstanding teacher. And additionally, Chari is one of the pioneer researchers of the university's Center for Language Technologies. Our speaker specializes in the area of natural language processing and machine learning. Along with her students, she works on developing computational models, tools, and electronic resources that will make machines process, understand, and generate text written in local languages such as Filipino. She has also published numerous papers on AI, NLP, information systems, and related interdisciplinary venues. She received her master's degree and PhD in computer science from De La Salle University. To talk about startup journey, not a lonely one, help me welcome Dr. Charibeth Chang.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see my slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes po.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, DOST, for this invitation so that Senti could be part of this year's National Science and Technology Week. So as mentioned, I am Chari Cheng. I am the head for research at Senti AI. And my presentation focuses on Senti's journey from when we started to who we are today. Seeing that the participants are actually students and faculty members, I just want to start my presentation by saying that Senti is actually a byproduct of the research Ralph Regalado and I did, and in my case are still doing in the LSU. Ralph and I founded Senti. He is the CEO. I'm the head for research. Ralph now is now a full-time, is now working full-time at Senti, but he is still very much part of the DLSU family. While in my case, I am still full-time in DLSU and part-time at Senti. So I am happy to be with colleagues, academic colleagues and students today. So who is Senti? So if you Google us, you will know that Senti is an AI solutions provider in the Philippines. And our solutions are capable of understanding our local Philippine languages. Our core technology is our NLP engine. NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. NLP is a branch of AI that focuses on building solutions, software solutions that make the computer understand human languages. And the solutions that we implement in Senti uses both linguistics and deep learning techniques. Both Ralph and I, our background is on computer science. While the recent years have been wonderful at Senti, a big part of that is because of the advances in AI and NLP. And Ralph was recently awarded by the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry as the 2020 INJAPSIA Outstanding Young Entrepreneur Award. I still get goosebumps whenever I say that. So, who are we today? From the homes of Ralph and I, now we have two offices. We have one here and another in Singapore. Uh, when before it was just Ralph and I, now Senti has 35 employees. We are also proud partners of Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, and also CDM, or the Certified Digital Marketer, the Center for Kapampangan Studies, and of course, the LSU. Okay. So from our core NLP engine, we now offer 6 solutions, all on NLP. So we have Balagtas, our API that allows other applications to access our NLP engines in Senti. There's Pulse, our social media monitoring tool. There's Volant, our automated form monitor, and Voix. This year we released Voix, which is our voice conversational assistant. Natter, we have Natter, our programmable chat assistant. And this year we launched 2 ladies, Cora and Ruth. These are byproducts of our Natter solution. Cora is a chat assistant that can automatically route complaints, feedback, and inquiries that it receives to concerned units and departments, while Ruth is a chatbot that performs health wellness screening. All these technologies are backed by Balagtas, which is our core NLP engine, and they understand the top Philippine languages. While the recent years have been good for Senti, we also had a lot of challenges and valleys along the way until help came along. So Senti started 7 years ago. In 2013, when we won the Startup Weekend Manila, Ralph and I pitched the original Senti solution, which was a social media listening tool that understands the Filipino language. The target use of that engine was for brand and reputation monitoring in social media, with Filipinos being big social media users. So, but before 2013, even before Startup Weekend Manila, Ralph and I were already doing research on NLP at DLSU. Ralph was actually my advisee when he worked on his bachelor's and master's thesis. A common thing of Ralph and my research is that we work with Philippine languages. We want to digitize them. We want to come up with software that can either teach, understand, or respond in any Philippine language. In my case, I always work with Tagalog or Filipino because that's the language that I know. But we've worked with other people or other students who've done work with Hiligaynon, Ilocano, Bicolano, or in the 10 major Philippine languages. So when Startup Weekend Manila came about, we pitched a social media monitoring tool that determines the sentiment behind a post about a brand, a personality, or an issue. During Startup Weekend Manila, we teamed up with other people who were mostly in the marketing, advertising, and brand management field. Since we didn't have similar goals with the new guys who joined us, after a few months after Startup Weekend Manila, Senti had its first breakup. And we ended up with just, again, Ralph and I. So the following year, 2014, new tech and business development people joined Ralph and me. And it was during this time that we had our first clients a year after Startup Weekend Manila, and we came up with our first product. And that is the Senti social media monitoring tool. And that year was not an easy one. These years were not easy. Our sales were not enough to consistently sustain Senti. So Ralph and I, we could not give up DLSU. So we are still full-time faculty members at DLSU. And we were even holding administrative positions in our department. We could not let it go, while at the same time sustaining Senti. It was very difficult to juggle both DLSU and Senti at the same time, especially for Ralph, because at the time he was the one who's more involved with Senti than me. So in 2016, we met an investor. So because of that opportunity, Ralph decided to take a 1-year professional leave to focus on Senti. And then because of that investment, we built with the expected investment, we built a team, dev and business-wise, and then we made big plans for Senti. Unfortunately, that investor left us after 6 months. So that year, 2016, we had our second breakup, and we consider this year to be the most difficult time of Senti. Money and career stability were concerns, not just for me and for Ralph, but for the team that we built and who we love so much. But we have to let them go. And it was in 2017, Ralph was also on leave. He was still on leave from DLSU, and he had to personally take on extra jobs over and above Senti just to have extra income. But as they say, it is darkest before dawn. While 2016 was our darkest year, 2017 was our dawn. So that statement, it's darkest before dawn, it was true for us. In 2017, we were linked with organizations that made our startup journey not as lonely as the previous years. So we were incubated in QBO, in Kubo, and it was also that year that Senti received the DOST Startup Grant. As Lei and team shared earlier, it is important for startups to be affiliated or to be part of a family that will sustain you energy-wise, emotionally, professionally. It is important. So the incubator is actually an important aspect in our journey. So who is QBO or Kubo? Kubo was our incubator. People think of incubators as providers of rent-free, accessible offices where we can work together with other incubators. Yes, QBO did provide that, and it is very, very, very much appreciated. But more than that, as Prim shared earlier, an incubator provides more than just the free space. In our case, we had free access to Kubo's organized classes, workshops, and consulting services, which greatly helped us in running the business and keeping ourselves up to date and relevant. Please take note that Ralph and I both have we are both very technical people. Our background is on computer science. We were not trained in any way on how to run a business or how to talk to clients. So these classes were very, very appreciated. They're valuable, they're priceless. It was also through QBO that we became part of the JP Morgan Incubation Program. And there we participated in investor pitches, and we met wonderful mentors who gave valuable and priceless advice. We were also able to join local and international trade fairs through Kubo, and we became part of a family of startups. And so that year, 2017, our situation started to feel not as lonely anymore. So we were now part of this group with support from an incubator. Though we still encounter challenges, of course, similar problems that we encountered the previous years are still there, but at least there is support from peers and also from Kubo. It was also through Kubo that we learned of the DOST startup grant. So we applied and became part of DOST's first batch of startup grantees. And we appreciate this help from the government so much. That grant gave us space. So by space, I mean there was space for us to sit down and to reflect and to reevaluate what our goals and targets are. We had the space now to experiment, to consider and implement alternatives. And we also had the space to expand our skills, our team, our services, and our solutions. With that grant, we had the resources to study and to understand the market as a whole, and not just our current clients, as we previously did. And timing is key in any venture. In our case, we are very fortunate to have been ready for the advancement in the AI field, just as the business side of Senti was falling into place. The solutions that we are able to build and are building now wouldn't have been possible without the advances in AI. So it's not just because of us, but it's also because the field is growing. And it was perfect timing that we received the grant from DOST because there was space for us to learn, there was space for us to experiment, and there was space for us to maximize these advances that are happening in the AI and computing field. So through that grant, we were able to rebrand what Senti is. We were no longer, instead of just a social media monitoring tool, we reflected and we reevaluated who we are, and we rebranded ourselves as an AI solutions company because it reflects more what our actual skills are, the services that we provide, and the products that we have. And it was after the grant, we launched our products, Natter, Pulse, and Volant. So the original social media listening tool is still there. There's Pulse, but we added Natter, our programmable chat assistant, and Volant, our automated form processor. And then as I presented earlier, this year, we now have 7 solutions. So we added Voix this year, and then Balagtas, which we always had, but we have to repackage it so that other third-party applications would be able to access our core technology. And then from Natter, we created Cora and Roof. So what is the next step for Senti? So we will still continue with our commitment to create user-centric AI solutions that improve the way people work. And we do this by formulating, developing, and deploying intelligent yet understandable solutions. We want to welcome the fourth industrial revolution and push the envelope for innovation so it can be used to open opportunities for others. So I think the use of AI systems will continue to expand and more AI systems will develop to complement and supplement human capabilities and decision making. So, and I always tell them this to my students, the area will still grow, okay? And this is really the best time for everyone to be in the computing and AI field. Um, I am a Star Trek fan. I am a Trekkie by heart. And there are so many technologies in that show and in that franchise that are slowly becoming reality. And I am grateful to be alive and to be part of these advancements. And for us in the software side of AI, the investment is rather small. All we need is a laptop, time, commitment, and brain cells because it's software. We don't need a lot of equipment to learn it. But maybe a few credits from Google Cloud credits. And I am happy that there are a lot of students here today coming from computing schools. So which means you have taken the first steps and you are in the correct field. So for the students here today, I strongly encourage you to specialize in a field of computing. So the computing field is big, so you may specialize whether in information or data, network, software, hardware, um, any field, as long as it's computing, there are also opportunities for you to be an entrepreneur. And as the title of my presentation is, the journey is no longer a lonely one. There will be challenges along the way, yes, but help is available for those who seek it. And with the approval, signing, and the implementation of the Innovation Startup Act of the government, I am very optimistic that the programs there would be helpful to promising startups. So to end my presentation, so I'd like to share with you Senti's Golden Circle statement. So Senti is all about pushing for humane and ethical innovation. As our technology progresses and becomes better after each iteration, we remember that innovation should not come at anybody's expense. We should focus on creating human AI teams in the companies that we work with, and with the goal of ultimately making our users' lives easier and simpler through intelligent yet understandable AI solutions. So for those students who are interested to learn more about AI, Ralph and I, Senti, is actually very involved in AI Pilipinas. So I encourage you to join AI Pilipinas. We discuss there not just advancements in the technology, but also the challenges and the dilemma of people working with AI have to face, including ethical innovation. So that's it. Thank you, DOST.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charit Cheng, for reminding us that startup business may be challenging, but it's never a lonely one.